Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's The In Show, Australia's only show dedicated to innovation from Adelaide, Australia and across the globe.
Hi, this is David Grice and Troy Sincock. We are talking innovation once again and chatting to entrepreneurs and startups, people with great ideas who made them a reality.
And this is the last show of the year, Troy.
I cannot believe it. It feels like we've been doing this for an eternity, but it feels like we've just started at the same time.
Absolutely. So 6 months in, and just can't believe the amount and the incredible people we've had on the show.
I thought we were going to run out of them at some point. I really did. I thought, we'll speak to, the 5 most exciting people and then we'll just sort of pad out the rest of the year. What happens is there has just been so many extraordinary people and there are so many untold stories that need to be heard. We really are in this era of people thinking so differently than they did in the past.
Absolutely, and I'm really, really excited in the new year. We're going to speak to somebody from NASA.
Yeah, that's incredible, isn't it? Who the hell thought that we would ever be doing that?
I didn't.
It's absolutely amazing. Hey, it's been a pretty crazy week once again, and obviously, heading close to Christmas, there's a stack on. We went to the Lord Mayor's Music Community's Christmas lunch, and wasn't that great to see how the music community in Adelaide is really galvanised, and people from all corners of music, no matter how they're involved or what type of music they're associated with, really sort of coming together as one industry.
And it was really, really good to see a very, very broad cross-section of, unknown artists to known artists to venues to managers. It was actually one of the first times I'd actually seen the full gamut of people that weren't normally on people's general lists that get to these things, actually out there, being treated by the Lord Mayor and finding out from the Lord Mayor about, how his city's embracing music and how passionate he is about ensuring that the culture in our city continues to survive.
Yeah, there's entrepreneurship and innovation in all corners of the music industry, and I think that this coming year is going to be a big one.
Absolutely, I can't wait. And on the show today, we're chatting with Tania DeJong, and now she's a spiritual journey woman, a creative innovation catalyst, and a social entrepreneur. And she sings, she's a soprano and the founder of charities The Song Room and Creativity Australia's With One Voice. And she's got many, many other projects as well. And her TEDx talk entitled How Singing Together Changes the Brain has sparked global interest. And we've talked about how music and the brain work, haven't we, in previous shows?
Yeah, it's going to be great to hear her take on this. Now here's Claire with more in news, including a story about something that's 200 times stronger than steel that's going to make us run faster in the future. What have you got for us, Claire?
Well, guys, this week I'll be talking about the future of news and a new kind of super shoe. But first, a life-changing diabetes management system is expanding its business globally to help sufferers monitor their condition. Taiwan-based Health2 Sync has raised $6 million to launch its diabetes tracker and management technology in Asian countries, including Japan. The system uses a Bluetooth dongle which connects iOS and Android devices to a device that measures how much glucose is in someone's blood. The information collected is then sent to the Health2 Sync app, which analyses the data and provides feedback. Users can also log information about what they eat, how much they exercise and what medication they're taking. Although the app can be used anywhere, CEO of Health2 Sync Ed Deng explained that they've decided to expand into Asia because there aren't many diabetes practitioners and because they have partnerships with local pharmacies and insurance firms. They've also expanded into Asia because it's estimated that the continent has 60% of the world's diabetes sufferers. Health2 Sync hopes that in the future they'll be able to integrate blood pressure meters and expand into other areas of the globe. American company Genies is changing the way we get and interact with news. They've launched a new app called Genies Clone Yourself, which aims to make the news more interesting and shareable. When you first open the app, you get to create a personalised Pixar-like big-headed genie. You get to choose a personality type which determines what type of news you see and get to decide how your genie looks. Every day, your personalised genie will act out 10 to 15 scenes related to that day of the year and trending news. According to CEO Nigam, you could find your genie riding a nuclear bomb if Trump decided to nuke North Korea. The app lets you swipe up to read the original news article and lets you send the scene to your friends by using other social media like Facebook and Instagram Direct. To make sure the news is factual, human editors analyse every scene before it's sent and only include information published by reputable news organisations. The app can be downloaded for free from iTunes and the Google Play Store. Researchers in the UK have made the first ever graphene shoe, which is way more durable than the average sneaker. For those of you who don't know, graphene is a carbon-based type of material which is atom thin. It hardly weighs anything, but it's about 200 times tougher than the metal steel. So far, it's been used to make batteries charge faster, and when fed to silkworms, the creatures produce conductive super silk that's stronger than an ordinary thread. This new type of shoe combines the power of graphene and rubber in its sole. The outcome is a more resistant type of footwear that's 50% stronger and stretchier than the average shoe. The researchers from the University of Manchester worked in conjunction with fitness brand Innovate to make the G-Series shoes, which are designed for trail running. They'll go on sale in 2018 for about $250 to $270, but the possible benefits of using graphene aren't limited to footwear. It could also be used to make stronger surgical gloves, sports gear and protective equipment. And that's what's in news this week. I hope you have a safe and happy holiday season. Here's to 2018.
Thanks, Claire. Well, David, finally we can get out of the blocks a bit quicker.
Oh, I need it these days, I tell you.
Isn't it extraordinary that, some of the things that are being developed, like the strength of these materials and how lightweight they are, is absolutely phenomenal. I think, whenever you think of steel or, things like that, you'd always think of weight and, but now to think that, a material like this that's so robust can have us actually more light-footed is incredible.
And the thing that they talk about is being atomic in size, like it's really tiny. So how the heck do they measure how strong it is? It's just profound.
What a massive innovation. I wonder what other applications this has as well.
And you wonder then, I guess my mind's taking me to, elite athletes and the Olympic athletes, and how is something like this, a shoe like this, going to actually give them a more of an edge, and is it going to be seen as legal? So then, how does the Olympic Committee, for example, legislate or create rules around footwear if they have to?
I tell you what, it makes me think of the aluminium cricket bat that Dennis Lilly trialled back in the day. I think that was in the 80s. And I think it actually did some damage to the ball. So that was a bit of an issue. Mind you, not that he ever really made that many runs. I don't think he hit that many.
No, that's true.
But that wasn't implemented.
And I never actually saw Dennis hitting with the ball, but can you imagine the noise of a cricket ball on an aluminium bat? It'd just be quite interesting. Yeah. Probably have to put hearing protection in as well.
We're talking innovation on The In Show. You can check us out at theinshow.online, Facebook, and follow us on Twitter as well. Coming up, we're going to speak to an incredible lady, Tania DeJong, whose TED Talk entitled How Singing Together Changes the Brain has sparked global interest. She comes from a family of innovators. Wait until you hear what her grandma invented. That's next.
It's all about innovation. The In Show.
Adelaide is starting to be recognised as a smart city, nationally and globally. The City of Churches is rapidly gaining a reputation as the city for innovation. Smart City innovation is becoming a big part of our future. The Adelaide Smart City Studio is supporting people that are creating new smart city products and services for global markets. What we've taken for granted is now being embraced by residents and visitors alike. Adelaide Smart City Studio, creating opportunities.
Hi, I'm Emma Hack and you're with Troy and David on The In Show.
It's David Grice and Troy Sincock, and if you've missed an episode, make sure you subscribe to the In Show podcast on iTunes. If you like it, rate us 5 stars.
The In Show.
Now, music's something that both you and I are very passionate about, Troy, and, we've seen some incredible innovation around the world going on with how music affects the brain and neurological pathways and helps athletic performance and those sorts of things. You've been in Melbourne.
I have, and caught up with an incredible lady. Now, I saw her as a keynote speaker at a conference I attended, and, then a week after, I was like, we're going to be in the same city. Let's sit down and have a chat. Her name is Tania DeJong, an Australian soprano and award-winning social entrepreneur. I went into her office in Melbourne and asked her if her trailblazing grandma led her on the pathway to becoming an innovator.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think for a few reasons. One is, she was the inventor of the original foldable umbrella in Vienna in 1929, and for a woman to do that in that era was, pretty amazing, and she was not an engineer, and it's fascinating just to see how she tried and failed so many times before succeeding with her innovation, which was patented the Flirt. Which is a really cute name for a little umbrella, I think. So her innovation and prototypes and her working notes reside in the Duldig studio in Malvern East. But unfortunately, due to the Nazis coming into Vienna 10 years after her invention, my family being Jewish, it was really through her ingenuity as well and her strategic foresight or her creative vision, I guess, that she was able to save her own life and my grandfather's life and the life of my mum, who was only 3 months old at the time, to escape to Switzerland, where most of the rest of the family perished at the hands of the Nazis. So, of course, I should be very wealthy, and but I'm not. But that's okay, because she ended up having to sell her patent to the Germans who approached her, But I guess the other reason why I think that her spirit lives on in me is that because my family has gone through such a difficult time, and of course, many people listening out here, a lot of our families and us, we've gone through lots of different hardships and we have a lot of incredible stories. But when you think about, losing everything, and then they got to Switzerland, then they fled to Singapore. They actually managed to escape Singapore just before it fell. Then they ended up in northern Victoria and Tatura as enemy aliens. Took them 2 more years to get out in the community. To restart your life with nothing when you come from this incredibly rich cultural community, it's just like, wow, it is an amazing achievement when you look at any migrants, or refugees who manage to just start from the ashes of, like with nothing, and to rebuild their lives. So I think that my grandmother did teach me a lot about resilience, and my grandparents and my parents, like my father was also a Holocaust survivor. And so I suppose we're used to being knocked down and having to pick ourselves up again, and we're used to concepts around failure as well. So, I like to think of the word fail as first attempt in learning. And my grandmother, you can see as she invents the foldable umbrella, you can see her working notes, and she's saying, well, today I tried this and didn't work, tomorrow I'm going to try this. So she never gives up,
Yep.
And she just sees it as another little step on the pathway. Whereas, a lot of people, if they fail once, it didn't work, it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't a good idea. And actually, no, you just got to keep going with it until you work out the way through, or pivot your idea until you can find a way to bring it to market or, implement it.
Isn't that extraordinary to think how many, amazing ideas have probably been lost over time for exactly that thinking? Yeah,
I mean, when you think about it, but then also how many incredible ideas have been generated by just, that imagine if, like, what happened with my grandmother. I mean, I'm assuming that everyone knows this, but of course they don't, is that, her and my grandfather used to go on their dates. So they met and fell in love at the studio of Anton Hanak, who was a contemporary of Egon Schiele and Gustav Klimt in 1920s in Vienna. And as young Polish artist emigres, they met and fell in love. And on their dates, they'd go to the museum or the art gallery, and my grandmother would take this big clunky umbrella along. And one day, she said to my grandfather, what if I was to create a little umbrella fit in a handbag? Let's keep this a secret, and she went round all the lampshade shops in Vienna collecting the parts and keeping her secret for many months, trying and failing. And I think it's that question, though, what if, imagine if, like, you've just got to go beyond, and, if you think that something's missing right now that could be a really handy thing that people might use, well, you might be on the cusp of a new invention, and I guess then the secret is to get enough people around you not to be so secretive that you try and do everything on your own. I mean, I think the fact that she had my grandfather, then probably her sister, who was also very innovative, meant that they were probably the 3 of them able to establish this brains trust.
Yep.
That they were able to come up with this incredible invention. But yeah, a lot of people give up along the way. I've seen, certainly in my, number of decades, I set up 2 charities and countless creative, innovative and entertainment and arts enterprises, and I've seen a lot of people who've got a lot of talent wanting to do certain things and just not following through enough to really make their ideas hit the ground. And I pretty much don't recruit anyone unless they can tell me, about numerous of their failures. Yeah. If they haven't been through the school of hard knocks, forget it. I don't think they're going to be able to hack it.
Yeah, no, I really get it. I think you take a look at what you've achieved on paper, and you just seem to be one of these people that's an overachiever, but you look at it and go, how is it possible for one human being to hang all this together simultaneously? You touched on, other people being needed to realise ideas. It's very clear that, no one person, well, there might be a front person for all these amazing innovations we've seen throughout the years. Often there is people behind them. What is it, specifically that you think that you really bring to all these projects that you have? And is there clearly a bit that you have missing that you always need for the projects?
Yeah, so I think what I bring is incredible determination and drive, and I can really see the end of the project. So I can see how something could look well before it is even started. So, for example, with the Creative Innovation Conference, I'd seen the TED Talks and I thought they were good, but they didn't really necessarily fit the mark for organisations and government and others wanting to really foster innovation in a more of a business sense. TED Talks are fantastic if you're looking for eclectic, out-of-the-box ideas across all sectors, but I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to create a conference that had some of the features of TED, e.g. the short sort of keynotes, but that had much more of an interactive element that was really focused on business innovation, technology and the intersection of those. And I somehow was able to, and this has happened with a lot of my projects, where something will just suddenly come into my mind. It could be a song, the lyrics of a song that was just there. Or in this case, it was like I saw the venue, I saw the speakers on stage, I saw some of the partners that we might have. Whereas a lot of people would go, oh, let's do, our risk analysis, right? And so, you get that sort of analysis paralysis. You just get so caught up in like what could go wrong that you actually never really get going out of the gate. So I think in my case, I'm sort of like reverse engineering things. So I see the end, I see how it could be, like at the moment with our With One Voice choirs and our Creativity Australia social inclusion charity programs, I can see that our social franchise could have, outlets, that people in communities all around Australia, indeed globally, could be starting With One Voice programs. In fact, I just got off the phone from an interfaith minister in Harlem in New York City who wants to start a With One Voice program there. Right. So it's when you stop limiting yourself, I think, and you stop thinking small and you start going, actually, anything's possible. Like, let's not limit ourselves, and definitely let's ask for permission later. Because I find it really frustrating when I work with people who are very limited by rules. I'm not saying that I break a lot of rules. I don't mean that, but I mean you don't want to. If you do everything within the confines of how things have always been done, you'll never find that sort of creative abrasion, that intersection where something could be invented, I think.
Yes.
And so, so I think that's what I bring, incredible drive, huge network, that sort of thing. Ryan, a network across different areas of business, government, creativity, technology, the arts and the social sector. What I don't do, the sorts of people that I love to find and work with are people who can keep up with me, number one. That's pretty important. Who are can-do people and who can sort of implement, who can implement what I'm seeing and put it into some types of systems and processes that we can then create and then we can improve over time. So I like working with people who are pretty operational. Though I have a high attention to detail as well, but you can't do everything. So I need to work with people who are good at implementation, operation of the details, so that we can create systems behind what we're delivering, so that we're not wasting a lot of time and productivity by having to reinvent all the time. I see in a lot of people's work, by and large, I see people sort of writing the same sort of cover notes and the same sort of plans from scratch, which actually, if they looked in the system, were already there. In any organisation, actually. It's sort of like, actually, if you can get it and it's already there and just improve it, why wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? If that's going to save you like days or hours or weeks or whatever, why wouldn't you do that?
Definitely. What do what sort of ideas do you get from other people? Do you find yourself, seeking collaboration, or do you find yourself just putting those little 1%ers that you get from other people and implementing that in your business? Like, I get the feeling that you've got some, very strong views about how you need things to be. But given that you're constantly in this space where, you can be influenced by all sorts of different people, how does that, do you think, contribute to how you operate?
Yes, I mean, I think I am really heavily influenced by what I see and what I hear, and I do like to collaborate. Like, if you look at the Creative Innovation Global Conference, we have like hundreds of partners, and they range from financial partners through to media partners and, supply partners through to endorsing partners and creative artists in residence and speakers and just a huge array of different people. So I love to collaborate. I guess, I don't think I think anyone would acknowledge that I wouldn't make a good employee. So, I think I gave up. I think my first and only job working for someone else was for Alan's Music when I was in my teens, behind the music cash register sort of thing. And that didn't last too long. So ever since then, I have fundamentally, run my own businesses, tennis coaching business, singing, teaching businesses early on, and then, of course, leading into my group Potpourri 30 years ago, and then the Song Room, the charity I founded 19 years ago, and this new charity, Creativity Australia, the conference, all my own sort of keynote and my CDs that I produce as well. So, I don't like to be stifled by process. So I like to work with people that are agile, that can move fast and with me, and I find that really exciting, and I think they do too. And but if you're nudging up against the wrong sort of personality set, it can be very uncomfortable, and that's happened to me on more occasions than I like to think about, really, where the way I work certainly doesn't suit. I don't think it suits most people. But for the people who it does suit, there's people that I've been working with for, in some cases, for decades, that just get me and love it and love making stuff happen. And I think that's probably like any entrepreneur. You've got to also, one of the things that I really learned, and I guess it was just one of those hard lessons, is that you just can't be liked by all of the people all the time. And I remember a management consultant who was very wise that I worked with said to me, Tania, you can't expect that about, 60% of the people are just not going to like you. They're not going to like that you're out there, that you're pushing the status quo, and that in some way, sometimes I think people feel that inadequate by the amount that I do, and it's not at all my intention. In fact, I just want to bring people along with me and help us to create a more inclusive and cohesive, healthier world and communities. But I think people feel intimidated by it sometimes, and so instead of coming along, they may be obstructive or negative. And I think it's also part of the tall poppy syndrome, that we have still got very strongly in this country, where we look at high achievers, and instead of celebrating them and supporting them, that we sort of try and find fault. And I think that's really sad, because we need a lot of people to deal with the challenges that we're facing now. Both in Australia, absolutely, we're not going too well at the moment, but also just globally as well. So we need any person that's, able to just really feel empowered and be able to empower others. Really important people to have around.
It's David Grice and Troy Sincock. You're on The In Show. We're talking innovation with Tania DeJong, and next we'll find out why she thinks the sense of community is so important in our lives.
Download the Phoner app before you head to your next event. Find people easier, market yourself better, and get connected using Phoner. That's spelled PFONR. Phoner. Available in the App Store now.
Hi, I'm Martin Hazy, Lord Mayor of Adelaide, and you're listening to The In Show.
The In Show.
We're speaking with Tania DeJong, an extraordinary woman whose TEDx talk, How Singing Together Changes the Brain, sparked a whole lot of global interest. Now, Tania, you seem to bring a real sense of community to all that you do and a deep love of people. So where does that come from?
Look, I love people. I think people are really complicated. And I think at the end of the day, and where I've sort of come to now after years of personal development of all kinds, I've tried every type of, therapy and health regime and just lots and lots of different techniques and strategies, from meditation to mantras to yoga to magic mushrooms. You know, I've tried everything, and I think that what it comes down to is really acknowledging that we are one. And so my work across all the sectors that I work in, from the choirs, which are called With One Voice, to the conference, which is all about breaking down silos between different sectors, to all of my work, which ranges in this really diverse sort of way, it's going, actually, guys, we're all brothers and sisters, we're all part of this one community. And it's that, you know, the ripple of the butterfly wing. You know, like, we think that our actions will not affect others, and they always do. And, you know, and someone like me has to be very careful of that, because, like, I hold a lot of energy, but that energy can be used for good or for harm. Of course, I try not to use it for harm, but, you know, if people feel overwhelmed by it, it can be a bad thing. So I have to be careful about that. But overall, I guess I'm very passionate about people understanding that we are far more one than we are separate. Yeah.
Perhaps on that note, you know, we've touched on With One Voice a number of times in this chat. Perhaps you can just explain a little bit more about exactly what that is.
Yeah, well, definitely. And in my TED Talk, How Singing Together Changes the Brain, if you watch through to the end, you can see a lot about the With One Voice program, as well as a lot more about how the right brain, left brain work or don't work together. So basically, one of the incredible things about singing is that, and being a soprano, I have researched a lot about the neuroscientific benefits of singing. And so when we sing with others, the right temporal lobe of our brain fires up, making us smarter, healthier, happier, more creative, improves our memory, language and concentration, heals people from strokes, Alzheimer's. Not only we breathe together, our hearts start to beat together. It's like this, I call it the super wonder drug. And through our With One Voice programs, we bring together people like doctors, lawyers, teachers, retirees, people probably listening to your program, that you classes included, fortunate, with people who are less fortunate. And this is very unusual. So people who've got disadvantaged, disabilities, unemployed, people feeling loneliness and social isolation, because we're living in the era of loneliness and social isolation. And so basically what we do is every week we bring together, you know, these two groups of people, and most social welfare programs will give a program to a particular disadvantaged group of people, like a group of elderly or a group of migrants, and give them a program that may or may not be beneficial to them. It may or may not lead to some outcomes. It may just keep them stuck in their box. So our program deliberately is about building the bridge of understanding and removing walls between people of, you know, diverse backgrounds, from all faiths, all ages, all backgrounds. So we have people from, you know, asylum seekers and refugees through to single mums and older adults who've lost their jobs, through, as I say, to people like us who come and, through the neuroscientific benefits of singing, feel empowered to ask for what they need in life. So we sing together. We sing all these awesome songs at choir practices all around the country. We don't have With One Voice Adelaide yet, which is where you're from.
Okay.
That might change.
It's about that time.
Yep. And so what happens is then people are given the chance through our wish list program to make wishes to one another. And these wishes are either read out or said out loud. And it might be that someone wishes for help with finding a job or a resume or a friend or learning English, the internet. The wishes are read out, and then literally people start to put up their hands and say, look, I could help you with that. Or it might be that you need your house minded, or your pet walked for a week when you're going away or something. Sometimes, you know, some of the more fortunate people pay some of the less fortunate people to do tasks for them as well. But it's really quite beautiful. And what happens is people put up their hands, say, oh, look, I can help you with that, or I know someone who could. And over the last few years, that's led to over 2,500 wishes being granted, including literally lots of jobs being created. So work experience, you know, paid jobs, volunteering roles. We've had mentoring, people find mentors. We've had marriages. That we're not a dating agency. And it's just been like, yes, I call it the weekly miracle, because every week we get notes from participants in our programs who really they've come, in many cases, out of the darkness of depression and feeling very isolated and lonely, feeling separated, more on the left side of their brain, into this right brain, very creative, intuitive, space that we create and feeling like part of a much larger whole. Once people feel part of something, they feel that sense of belonging, that starts to really increase their potential then to give to others. So then we see that some of these disadvantaged people start to maybe take on volunteer roles in our choirs. So we have about 15 with one voice programs going on at the moment in Australia, and they've 6 to 10 volunteers per program. That can be anyone from skilled people like yourself through to less skilled people who are learning skills to build their confidence to get work. And we've now started a social franchise program so that any community leader, conductor, person in community, anywhere can really approach us to use our video tutorials, our written guides, our mentoring helpline to start with one voice programs in their communities and build social inclusion and wellbeing and stuff. But what we find is that a lot of these volunteers and some of the more disadvantaged ones will start getting their wishes granted. Maybe they'll get a job, maybe something will they'll get on the committee or whatever it is, and all of a sudden they start wanting to grant the wishes of others less fortunate than them. So you get this like circle of reciprocity that occurs. As people get something, they start to give, and it's beautiful.
And so you would have seen many outcomes, I suppose, that you didn't necessarily expect as part of the project. What I love too is that, you've created this thing that really lives beyond what you created in the first place, and that you're giving ownership to other people. Yeah,
and that's really important for us. I mean, we can't manage every program from a small, we basically have a very small team. Then we have volunteer board members as well. So I volunteer 100% to the charitable work I do, so I don't charge for that, obviously. And so what ends up happening is, there's only a certain amount of programs we actually do manage in-house. And by and large, what we do is we upskill everyone from community leaders and conductors through to service providers like old people's facilities or aged care homes, hospitals, universities and others who want to create social inclusion choirs. For example, at Benetas, which is where we have one of our programs, instead of it just being for the residents of the old people's home, which is what most of their programs are for, the program is actually for their residents, the staff, the residents' families, and then members of the community.
Great.
And it's just beautiful. And in fact, what happens at some of the performance, so we have sometimes big performances in central venues with all our choirs. Well, with some of these residents, they obviously can't leave the residency, but some of the staff come, or their families, and then they sing to them via live stream, and they're singing live, beamed into the concert venue, which is quite lovely. So you get this nice sort of connection that happens through technology, but frankly, I don't think anything replaces that feeling of, we are social animals and we want to connect with other human beings. And basically, I love people. I also find people immensely complicated and, frustrating beyond belief at times. But let's face it, technology doesn't innovate, people do. So, at the end of the day, we have to enable people to feel that anything's possible.
Yeah, magnificent. Now, given all this is going on and you're giving so much back to the community, clearly using all the skills that you've gathered over time, and there's creativity rippling through everything that you're doing, how, in goodness name, do you actually find time to record your music and do your albums? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, look, that's and that's one of my big challenges is that like my singing, my recording. Just my performing, and I do a lot of keynote speaking as well. I mean, they're probably the true passion. And in terms of making the largest sort of global impact, footprint, whatever you want to call it, to big groups of people, that's probably the best thing that I can do is to perform and speak to large audiences, as when you and I met one another.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's about what I'm trying to do at the moment is. I've spent a lot of time on the charity in the last period of time to make sure that the social franchise is in place in such a way that hopefully communities will be able to run with the tools and the mentoring that we're providing so that we don't have to have as much hands-on involvement, especially me. And in terms of the conference, well, I haven't quite decided, what we're doing next. So that my goal over the next few months is to try and focus back on my own passions, my own creative passions, my singing and keynote speaking. I've got quite a lot of bookings at conferences and events all over the world, which is exciting. And this year I did a keynote in Vienna as well, which is amazing.
Wow.
Because they actually came up to me, the European Patent Office, and approached me and showed me the patent online of my grandmother for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good. So, yeah, but I love recording and performing, and this last recording, the Flying Free recording, the words just came to me for the Flying Free title track of Machu Picchu. I've got this extraordinary pianist, composer, musical director, Anthony Barnhill, that he and I basically worked together for ages in the studio. Beautiful arrangements. You probably heard some of it.
I did.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm really proud of that. I just like it to get out there more.
That was Tania DeJong on The In Show. It's all about innovation. Troy Sincock and David Grice. And if you know an innovator that we should have on the show, drop us a line at theinshow.online and check us out on Facebook and Twitter.
And rate us 5 stars. Well, Troy, that's the last episode for 2017. Can you believe it?
It has been incredible, the people that we've spoken to over the last 6 months or so. It really has become like a really important part of my life doing The In Show, just because of how, consistently inspiring people are.
And who would have thought? 31 countries now after 25 weeks.
And we didn't think anyone in any country was going to listen when we began.
Yeah, we sure didn't. But think about also the types of people that we've heard from. And, we've had the Lord Mayor in, we've had people from Sphero, we've had all of these amazing, amazing people, a fighter pilot from Israel. I could never have even dreamt that we would have the amount of quality people in talking to us.
And what we've said time and time again is what's been so consistent, regardless of the field that people work in that we speak to, the commonality is people really wanting to better the lives of others. And it takes a bold person to really put everything on the line to try and make that happen. And we've heard, some incredibly courageous stories from people from all over the world.
We sure have. And the fact that we can just talk to them without any, fear of saying the wrong thing or anything, the way that these conversations have just unfolded has been absolutely refreshing for me.
Yeah, and the willingness for people to share what they've come up with too. Some of these incredible innovations, they're not keeping these things behind closed doors. It's the more people that know, the more these things develop faster and evolve, and skill sets that you need start getting involved. You move into other industries. It really, I think also the focus on globalisation has been really, really interesting too.
Yeah, and I think when you get amongst people that are really willing or want to make a difference in people's lives, they are really open to share, and I think we found that right across the board. There's not been anybody that's been closed off. I mean, I remember Ashley Manuel from Growing with Gratitude, talking about how he's affecting children's lives, like little kids by 5 steps to gratitude every day. If you actually understand those 5 things, you can actually be an adult and apply those to your life as well. And I only found out the other day that 143 schools he's reached this year. There's tens and tens of thousands of kids he's touched. Phenomenal. We'll have to get him on next year just to talk about where he's sort of come from in the last 12 months so that we can tell our listeners exactly what's going on.
That's a great idea. Well, that's year 1 down, and the next year looks very exciting. We've got some excellent interviews lined up for you. Now, if you have missed any of the in-show episodes, of course, you can subscribe to iTunes and listen to our podcast there. If you've got some time over the Christmas, New Year period, why don't you just listen back to back to every episode of the in-show? That sounds like a pretty good way to spend your festive season.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you get really bored real fast. Oh, well, what a year, Troy. Really enjoyed being with you on the show this year, and I look forward to where we go next year and the people we're going to talk to and the journey we're going to share together. It's just going to be astounding.
Yeah, great.
And what have you got up for the Christmas period? Are you getting away?
I'm going to Kangaroo Island for 3 days. We have a property over there, so really looking forward to do that, and a whole stack of DJing engagements and just catching up with family and friends, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thanks again for joining us on the In Show, and thank you to all of the people that have listened to us this year around the world, and we look forward to talking more innovation when we return on the 8th of January.
We'll catch you then.
The In Show, brought to you by Adelaide Smart City Studio. Subscribe to the In Show podcast on iTunes. Presented by David Grice and Troy Sincock. News by Shannon Corvo and Claire Murphy. Music by Zach Grice. Produced by Jason Walker. A Dave and the Beanstalk production.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.